Hello, we're going to be looking at making face-to-face engagements really pay for themselves, for you, for the student, for your institution. And this is the 11th in our Getting Started this autumn series. Remember, we're trying to deliver all of our undergraduate program on less than 55 minutes of academic time per credit, per student, per year. How are we going to use this time? Well, we've got a number of options. We've shown elsewhere in some of the earlier studies and videos that it's possible to liberate this amount of time, but you do have to be quite rigorous and ruthless with the rest of your agenda. And I think you've basically got two options. One is to have weekly small groups on all modules, and I've suggested sort of 5 is a reasonable number. If it gets bigger than that, it's hard to manage the groups. The smaller it gets, the more expensive it is. But if you configure things correctly, you could have a weekly 1-to-1 or even 1-to-2 that cross all modules. A little bit like a sort of a Neo-Oxbridge model if you really wanted to go that way. First of all, you want to simplify your ideas. So we've talked about a very simple model, assimilative learning, what students do on their own, discursive learning, what they discuss with you, and stretching assessment, how they grow by trying a difficult problem that you can then assess, and indeed that they can assess. Now, what you really want to do is to make sure the book learning is interesting and it stimulates not just engagement, but more curiosity and more learning. And that means that you have to curate really good material. You want the stretching assessment to do more than provide a way of assessing the student. You want it to be a problem that they can get into that has relevance to the rest of their lives and that maximizes their learning by stretching those intellectual muscles. This allows you to create space for the central focus. The whole fulcrum of your educational model is what you discuss with the students, how you tease things apart with them, how they learn to think about stuff, how you become an exemplar to them of the way in which the discipline is pursued in your area. Focus. Secondly, be relentless about other things. So if you've got it working right, students will get much more from the discussion, the more curiosity-driven work they've done on their own or in groups. And you've really got to get this piece working well because that will stimulate and fuel really great discussion. The other thing, of course, that will stimulate the good discussion is questions that are coming out of a well set up assessment. A well set up assessment is not just about the students showing that they can do something and getting a grade, although that's the most evident piece to both sides. But the really important part of it is that they do something difficult that really stretches them as students in that discipline. And so if you have a well-designed piece, that can start to raise questions. So the facts and the curiosity-driven stuff, that will give plenty of material to drive this discussion. And from the other side, there can be questions that come out of the stretching assessment. You know, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. I've got no idea how to make this piece work. And so you can start to turn that around and say, well, how did you think about doing it? What did you try that didn't work? And you start to get a really useful discussion going. And indeed, the more questions you can answer and the fewer answers you can be pressed into providing, my guess is that that will make it a much more successful engagement. You want lots from the students about what they've tried that's worked and that hasn't worked. So what's wrong with old-fashioned tutorials? Well, there's nothing wrong with old-fashioned tutorials, but everybody has to turn up and they have to turn up every time. It's no good having sort of voluntary things where half of the class is missing and you don't know where they are and you have to chase them, and then you have to provide them with separate opportunities to meet with you. The tutorial has to address important things on the module or the course. It's not free time. This is the most important and expensive time. It's got to be made to work. Everybody's got to come properly prepared, and everybody will learn if you can get it right together each week. So set it up well, use it well, and in the middle of all that, try and have some fun. So here are my coordinates. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks ever so.